Some people walk into chaos and do not panic. A pipe bursts, a laptop crashes, a plan falls apart, someone starts emotionally spiraling. And while everyone else is overwhelmed, this one person goes strangely quiet, not frozen, not helpless, just focused. They look at the problem, pause for a second, and then start doing something. And if you are not one of those people, it can feel almost unreal to watch. Because while they are already solving it, you are still trying to calm your nervous system down. So what actually makes someone like this? Why do some people naturally move toward broken things, while others immediately shut down? And maybe the deeper question is this: are these people just more capable than everyone else? Or did life teach them something the rest of us never fully learned? Because once you understand this psychology, you will start seeing it everywhere. The friend who always knows what to do, the sibling who stays calm in emergencies, the person who can handle practical problems, emotional problems, even other people's messes without collapsing. From the outside, it looks like confidence. But psychologically, it is usually something more specific than confidence. It is a belief, a very deep one, the belief that problems are handleable, that matters more than people think. Psychologist Albert Bandura built an enormous amount of work around a concept called self-efficacy, the belief that you can deal with what is in front of you. And in your transcript, this idea is the main backbone of why fixers keep moving when others freeze. Because when someone has high self-efficacy, they do not look at difficulty and instantly think, "This is too much for me." They think, "This is hard, but I can probably do something." That one difference changes everything. It changes how fast they panic, how long they stay with the problem, how much effort they give before giving up, how their body reacts under pressure. And most of the time, people like this were not born that way. They were shaped, usually through very small moments that happened long before anyone noticed what those moments were building. Think about a child trying to fix something, not perfectly, not dramatically, just for real: a loose wire, a broken remote, a homework problem, a small household issue. A situation that felt uncertain, and then they tried something and it worked. That moment looks tiny from the outside, but psychologically it is huge. Because the child does not just learn, "I fixed the lamp." They learn, "My actions can change outcomes." And once a person starts collecting those moments, something inside them changes. Problems stop feeling like punishment, they start feeling like puzzles. Bandura described these kinds of experiences as mastery experiences, and your transcript correctly centers them as one of the strongest sources of self-efficacy. That is why some people do not go into shutdown when something breaks. Their mind goes somewhere else, into curiosity, into testing, into process. They are not always calmer because the situation is smaller. They are calmer because their history taught them that action might matter, and that brings us to another important psychological idea. Some people grow up feeling that life happens to them. Other people grow up feeling they can still influence what happens. That difference matters a lot. Your transcript brings in this idea through locus of control, whether a person feels outcomes are shaped more by their own actions or by luck, fate, and outside forces. If someone develops a more internal sense of control, they are more likely to try, more likely to persist, more likely to believe effort is meaningful. But if someone grows up repeatedly learning that their effort changes nothing, they often stop reaching for problems, not because they are weak, because their nervous system has been trained to expect helplessness, and that is the part people often miss. The person who fixes everything is not always stronger. Sometimes they were simply taught agency earlier. Maybe a parent let them figure things out. Maybe someone gave them room to try. Maybe they were encouraged to think instead of rescued too quickly. Or maybe, on the opposite side, nobody helped them at all, so they had to become useful on their own. That is why the path into competence can come from two very different places: support or survival. And from the outside, those two people can look exactly the same. Both are capable, both stay calm. Both solve things quickly, but internally they may be operating from completely different emotional systems. This is where your topic becomes much deeper than it first looks. Because not all fixers are fixing from strength, some are fixing from fear. Your transcript makes this distinction very clearly in the middle, that some people learn to fix things because helplessness felt dangerous, and fixing became the way they earned safety or approval. That means sometimes the fix-everything person is not relaxed at all, they just look relaxed. Inside, their system is saying, "Do not let this get out of control. Do not let anyone see you powerless. Do not let the situation stay broken. Do something." Now, that is not healthy competence, That is a coping mechanism wearing competence like armor. You can usually tell the difference. If you ask a trauma-driven fixer to let someone else handle it, they do not settle, they hover, they correct, they step in too fast, they keep monitoring. Because the broken thing is no longer just a broken thing, it feels like a threat to their inner stability. An unfixed problem outside them starts feeling like an unfixed problem inside them. And that kind of fixer often becomes the person everyone depends on, but very few people understand. Because the world praises them for being useful, without noticing how hard it is for them to ever put anything down. But then there is the other kind, the healthier kind. The person who fixes things not because they are terrified of helplessness, but because they are genuinely fascinated by how things work. This part of your transcript is strong too, the idea that some people fall in love not with being seen as capable, but with the process of figuring things out itself. These people do not just like solutions, they like mechanisms, they like cause and effect, they like the space between broken and working. To them, failure is not always humiliation. Sometimes it is information, and that is a very different relationship with uncertainty. Which brings us to one of the most important parts of the entire psychology here. People who know how to fix things usually have a higher tolerance for not knowing. They can sit inside uncertainty without instantly falling apart. They do not need immediate reassurance before they begin. They do not need the full answer before taking the first step. They can enter the uncomfortable middle. Your transcript points to this directly through tolerance of ambiguity, the ability to stay inside a situation where the answer is still unclear without collapsing under it. That might sound small. It is not, it is huge, because many people do not fail at fixing things because they are unintelligent. They fail because the uncertainty itself overwhelms them. They need resolution fast. They need proof it will be okay. They need someone else to anchor the moment. And if that reassurance does not come quickly, their anxiety takes over, so they freeze or delay. Or hand the problem to whoever looks more stable. That is why being a fixer is not just about skill, it is about your emotional relationship with the unknown. If this video is hitting close to home, subscribe now, because this channel is for people who want to understand the hidden psychology behind everyday behavior, not just judge themselves for it. Now here is the part that matters most for the viewer who is watching this and realizing, I am not one of these people. Maybe you panic fast. Maybe you outsource every problem. Maybe broken things make you feel instantly small, overwhelmed, or incapable. That does not mean there is something wrong with you. It usually means you have a history. A history that taught you one way or another that problems were not things you could influence. Maybe someone always took over before you could try. Maybe failure was punished too hard. Maybe nobody modeled calm problem-solving around you. Maybe you were made to feel incompetent too early, too often. Maybe you learned that mistakes were proof of inadequacy instead of part of learning. If that is true, of course your body reacts differently. Of course your first instinct is panic. Of course your system says, get away from this, find someone else, do not touch it. Because your relationship with broken things was shaped too, just in the opposite direction, and that can change. That is the hopeful part of this whole topic. Your transcript ends on this well too, that self-efficacy is not fixed. It is built through experience, especially through small successful attempts. Not giant heroic moments, not dramatic life changes, small wins, tiny proof. You tightened the screw, you made the call, you opened the file and tried. You stayed with the problem 10 seconds longer than usual. You did not immediately outsource it this time. That is where the rewiring starts. Because the brain does not become more capable by being told, you can do it. It becomes more capable by experiencing, I did something and it mattered. That is how agency grows. That is how calm grows. That is how a person slowly becomes someone who does not automatically collapse in front of broken things. So in the end, the psychology of people who know how to fix everything is not really about perfection. It is about repetition. It is about a history of contact with problems. A history where trying was allowed or required or rewarded enough times that the brain learned a new rule. Broken does not mean hopeless. Uncertain does not mean doomed. And not knowing does not mean stop, it just means begin. And maybe that is the real difference. Not that they are fearless, not that they know everything. But that somewhere along the way, life taught them this one powerful thing. Problems are not always the end of control. Sometimes they are the beginning of it.